Painting I did in the background called Pray for Iraq, which is, you know, American culture moving into ancient Mesopotamia. And what is that all about? Hopefully Obama will have diplomacy instead of bombs, and we'll have a whole new change in this country.
I've been trying for over a year to have towns and villages in the United States adopt some programs that I've created. And these are programs that I'm offering free, and they're beneficial to the town, in my own opinion. The main program was volunteering to be a town attorney general for a municipality. And I wasn't getting any towns really to say that they wanted me to become their town attorney general. So I started thinking, what is it I could do to add something else to this package and make it an attractive package? The town attorney general was not enough. I visited several towns and met with the legislators or the mayors, and what I could do, or what somebody could do as a town attorney general, is, for example, if people in the town are being victimized by banking practices relating to their mortgages.
Everybody's concerned with that today.
Well, they could have gone to me as town attorney general, and I could have brought suit to try to stop these practices that have just killed the financing for the country. We have been killed because of the lack of law enforcement.
Defaults on his loan, his mortgage, that's, you know, you're a bad loan.
No, that is not the answer. That's a very unsophisticated answer that I would think would come from people that aren't as experienced with the legal issues involved. For example, if you had been talked into taking a mortgage, a subprime mortgage with a variable rate, and if the broker that gave you that mortgage, he's the one that organized the mortgage for you, got a higher amount for his services because he found a bank that was willing to charge a lot more than you deserve to be charged, then you're in default because you can't meet the payments because they gave you a mortgage that was far beyond your ability to pay, and it was far in excess of what you should have paid. So that there would be lender's liability there, and you could defend in court and say that the reason that I'm not paying this is that they put me into a bad mortgage, and they knew it, and they did it because the broker was working for himself and got a kickback. There was an undisclosed higher rate of interest that I had to pay as a result. So there are defenses, and therefore anyone with a mortgage problem should not assume that merely because they're not paying that they are bad people and that they deserve to lose their home. That isn't true. And in fact, what I tell people, and something which is staggering because no one else is really suggesting this, but this is truly an important thing, that when people realize that they can't pay their mortgage, they ask me, what should they do? And I say that 4 or 5 months before you realize that you won't be able to continue paying your mortgage, the solution is to stop paying it and invite a foreclosure. And the reason for that is this. Foreclosures work on what I call a two-track system. One is like two railroad tracks that are going along in parallel fashion. One track is where you call the bank and you get a faceless person at the bank. When you call the person, you get a faceless individual whose name is not important, and the person tells you, don't worry, we'll get back to you. You want a modification. You can't pay the mortgage. You want some relief, and you call the bank, and the bank, some faceless individual, says, don't worry, we'll look into it, we'll get back to you. The mortgagor, the one that borrows the money, feels like this thing is taking care of the foreclosure, which is on a separate track. But the faceless person does not in fact call the lawyer and say, hey, stop the foreclosure. So as the borrower is working the one track, the foreclosure is speeding along like a freight train, an express train, heading for foreclosure, heading for default, and they're going to take your property away because you've defaulted with your mortgage. Because you've been listening to the bank, and you thought that by talking with the bank that you're covering yourself on the second track.
Right.
So the fact of it is that there are two tracks working here, and you have to deal with both of them. The best way of dealing with both of them is to stop paying your mortgage. If you really can't pay it 4 or 5 months from now, why give the bank every last penny that you have? That's ridiculous to give them every last penny. If you were in business and you see that in 5 months you're not going to be able to pay your expenses, you stop some of those costs now. You start changing things today so you don't run out of money in 5 months. So by stopping the payment of your mortgage, you're inviting the bank to sue you. And now when they do, you're on a single track. You should then have a single track to worry about, and they no longer have a faceless person. You have a lawyer by name representing the bank, and you assert the defenses, for example, that the mortgage broker acted fraudulently and put you into a much higher mortgage than you deserved according to your credit rating, and that the bank doesn't have the note, it doesn't have the mortgage, it sold them. Maybe you could add a defense that the bank is acting not in good faith and in breach of an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing when the bank distributes or cuts up the mortgage into 1,000,000 pieces so that no one is there interested in helping you in your time of distress. In It's a Wonderful Life, a person that had a mortgage with a local bank could go into the bank and say, "Hey, George, I'm having a problem. Can you help me out?" But when that mortgage is cut into 1,000,000 pieces, you no longer have anyone interested. Nobody cares that you're in default. They only want to take back the property and sell it to some other victim and go through the whole thing again. So I say, stop paying, go on a single track, and then by asserting the defenses that you have available, legitimate defenses, you can then have and probably obtain a modification agreement that is reasonable, that reduces the monies you have to pay, both as a principal sum and the monthly amount. Now that
I have no opinion, really. I don't know in a given moment. I don't believe in homelessness. I don't believe in that the banks have a right to foreclose. But again, if you have a bad loan, you're not paying, you got to figure it out. Yeah, I'm glad you're coming up with some ideas.
What do you
Obviously,
think?
It's a major issue across the country now.
The town attorney general, and the concept of the town attorney general is to take problems that many of the residents have and try to deal with those problems at government expense. Because as it is today, when you have a problem, you have to pay for the legal expenses yourself, and most people don't have the money. It's so expensive to go into court that if you don't have the government helping you, if the institutions of government fail to enforce the laws for the people themselves cannot afford to enforce it. So I said, why not let the small towns act as our enforcement officials?
Right.
And why not have an attorney in each town of the United States be the individual to enforce the Federal Trade Commission laws, the Department of Justice rules and regulations that they enforce, the EEOC, the SEC, the Economic Opportunity Commission. We have all sorts of government agencies that are in charge of law enforcement, trying to enforce the laws for the betterment of the people.
Excuse me, again, Frank, because I've dealt more with Carl. What he was saying is that the government only gets involved with helping you with a defender when you've committed a crime. It doesn't help you when your rights have been violated. That's the idea of the city or town attorney general, right?
The prosecutor is one who enforces the duties of the people and does so fantastically, too much so, at government expense. They have all these jail systems and parole and all of the apparatus to put people away for a long period of time.
Yeah, a little bit of marijuana and half the prisons
and that's
are
enforcement of our
duties. The new slave labor plantations.
Exactly. Now this is enforcement of our duties, and they do so at fantastic cost, and who pays for it? You and I do.
And they're privatized jails now, thanks to Clinton.
Well, here's the deal in New York. The deal in New York is that we are allowed in New York City to create and justice the criminals. We're allowed to. That's the deal with upstate New York, that we allow the criminals here to get justiced in our system down here. And then the minute they're justiced and sentenced, then we ship them upstate New York, where we create a lot of prisons and a lot of jobs. And without those prisons, the people in upstate New York would be destitute. They need those prisons now. We have a prison economy in upstate New York where they're dependent on it.
I'm sorry, I disagree.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's a food crisis and people are hungry. There's a lot of land out there. Nothing like good old-fashioned farm work that can be exercised and utilized to help people. But Monsanto and the big agribusiness are squeezing out the small farmer. And when you say we have you know, and we need the prisons to put people to work. And I don't think we need prisons to
No, I
put
think
people
you're
to work.
misunderstanding.
I'm not agreeing to it. I'm only pointing out what's happening.
Well, that's
I
the
disagree.
infrastructure that's in place now, but that's what's the problem.
I disagree with the
that
infrastructure.
needs to be addressed.
He disagrees
People are
with it.
unfairly incarcerated and incarcerated with a long sentences.
And in a given town, you might have 10,000 problems. The town attorney general will not address and try to correct 10,000 different problems. But problems that are the most severe, the ones that really affect the entire town, are the problems that the town attorney general should address if there's a legal basis for trying to attack these problems.
The Federal Trade Commission's not doing it. And,
right. Now, basically...
Well, like for national issues like legalization of marijuana or decriminalization and such, or any basic law that's in place, that's a sort of a federal mandate, isn't it? You can't suddenly say, oh, in our town, 16-year-olds can drink wine and beer, it's no problem. You know, you can't really change the law.
Well, that's why you need a person that will look at this and say, for example, in the situation of marijuana, you might look at have the attorney general for that town look at the law and say, you know, we are really precluded that we have a ruling in the highest court of the state, we have another ruling in the federal court, the Supreme Court, and there's really no place to go. It would be useless to try to bring a lawsuit. On the other hand, this milk idea may not have any litigation at all. It may be, well, you don't know, and I don't know. At least I don't know.
There might be litigation?
There might be. There might have been litigation already. And yet there may be reasons why right now it would be appropriate to bring a suit to make it legal, so that to try to declare a statute or rule unconstitutional for whatever legal reason may exist. I don't know that there is a basis, but that would be the job. Legal barriers to doing something that you think would be good conduct to have done. In order to avoid going to jail and avoid fines, you would have to bring a lawsuit, ask for maybe an injunction to stop the enforcement of the law, or at a minimum to try to get a declaratory judgment that the law is unconstitutional for the reasons that you present. The mere fact that you file a lawsuit to try to get a declaration of unconstitutionality does not mean that you win.
Right.
You win some and you lose some, but all of this is what a town attorney general, the same way that a state attorney general would have to evaluate a given situation. But as it is now in a small town, the lawyers in the small town focus on zoning. They are experts in zoning, because zoning is the way that they allocate the business. It's through the use of land in a small town that you allocate who makes money and who doesn't. So they hold back zoning changes and they grant them on condition, and who knows how many kickbacks there are and things like that. That's what they specialize in. They don't specialize in whether the Justice Department should be enforcing the antitrust laws, whether Walmart is doing the Walmart below cost. They don't handle a lot of these different legal issues, the intellectual property, antitrust, EEOC, civil rights, and things like that. So you need to bring sophistication into a small town. If you do, you can start enforcing rights and make it a better town for the people. The people can't afford to enforce those rights themselves. You need to have the government enforcing those rights.
So tell me, how did you wow the governor or the mayor of Hopeless, Indiana, and say why you're calling it Hopeless, Indiana?
I was on a radio show, and the radio show host put me in touch. Actually, he called up the mayor and said that there's somebody you have to meet. So the radio show host and I met with the mayor about 3 weeks ago, and we spent 4 hours together. So we discussed a 4-point program that I was offering to the mayor, and before I even got into the meeting with him, I looked around at the town. I drove all the way around the town, and I looked at a plant that had closed that had 7,000 jobs that were lost. I looked at the various other things that I wanted to see if I could offer anything at all just by my observation. So we had the meeting, and I spent 4 hours discussing what my proposal is to try to change the town. One of the things that I mentioned, it wasn't the first thing, was the town attorney general. I explained how a town loses money because it doesn't have the legal sophistication to know when major corporations have done them in and have hurt them, and you can collect money for the town and for the people if you bring an appropriate lawsuit. There's something
except for Bhopal, India, and many places around the world that are screwed by corporate America.
Well, and we have it in America too, though. See, we're losing jobs in America. The corporations in America are taking jobs and leaving and pushing those jobs outside of the country. But they took benefits from the town. They took benefits from the people in the town. They took a lot of money. They took tax consequences where if they came into a town, they would be free of taxation. The town built roads and improved property, gave zoning and other things like that. They gave licenses away that were worth money. Now the corporation pulls the jobs out and submits them to some other country. They send the jobs to some other country. I think you can build a case of fraud and unjust enrichment and the failure to complete the contract, breach of an implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. I'm just rattling off legal doctrines. I have a head full of legal doctrines.
Well, anyway, congratulations. You're Attorney General of a small town called Hopeless, Indiana, which you've called in that. How about it? Are you on the payroll? The mayor said, okay, you're hired?
No, I'm not. I'm doing it without being on the payroll.
So how are you going to pay your bills? Do you have an office?
Well, I'm willing to go. I don't have an office there. I have my own office. I can do this from afar. I don't need to be in Hopeless to put up.
It's called Hopeless because the mayor wants to withhold a name until.
I don't want the name of the town known because it might interfere with doing what I'm trying to do. If people come into the town and say, well, how's this working out and stuff like that, I would rather accomplish it and have it far along before Hopeless then comes into its own name.
So can the small town USA investigate 9/11? It's having trouble getting its head together. But it's it's an international issue. So if some town decides to say we're getting behind this and we're going to set up a panel, could we have subpoena power with a small town?
A town with its existing organization could do it through their prosecutor at the county level. If any prosecutor in the 1,800 counties of the United States wanted to convene a grand jury and issue subpoenas, you have a problem that the subpoena may not be valid beyond the state. So
I see. Within the framework of the state, that's only where this persona non grata, so to speak, who supposedly could be detained and said, "You're supposed to appear before us." Well, Bush, Cheney, you got to show up.
And they could let's take Hopeless, Indiana. Let's say it's near Wayne or something. The subpoena that a prosecutor could issue does not go beyond the state. And I'm not even sure if they have subpoena power everywhere beyond their county. I would have hoped they do. They probably do. But they're as a state court, it could only go up to the state. Beyond that, it wouldn't be able to go. It could have comedy and make an application.
One tooth, one nail, one scratch, one little bit is better than none. Well, unfortunately, we need to go moving with this whole ballot initiative thing. Somehow. First ballot initiative with you as Attorney General. People signing that somehow didn't fly. Then I'm recently got the other one out when you weren't on the Attorney General, but somehow. Then again, with 30,000 signatures, didn't fly, didn't go. So I don't know. Now you're Attorney General of a small town. Bingo. If the mayor and the whole town council is on board, even though we're not a big city, you have legal parameter jurisdiction within this territory. Could there not be a legitimate 9/11 investigation within that parameter?
Here's your focus.
Yes or no? Simple.
Well, it's not simple, because I've gone into the town selling them on the idea that I can increase their prosperity. I did not go into the town and even mention 9/11. Okay,
fine. So you're on to a whole nother shtick.
Well, the Attorney General is a concept of enforcing the rights of the town. And in order to make that available, I put together 3 other things that were highly economic, obviously economic, that would be attractive.
Great. Okay, let's bullet point the 4 points that you set out for the town.
Thank you.
Yeah. The first point, of course, was the town Attorney General, because there are things that need to be done to correct violations of law that are taking place. Economic violations of law, not violations of 9/11 related laws. That's a different issue. Secondly, and that was the first point that I raised, I'm going to start, and we're going to start in the town, a tuition-free college. And it will be open only to members of the community. At the outset, we've agreed
Well,
that...
how do you pay your professors?
Well, at the outset, we've agreed that it will not be tuition-free, but it will be $2,000 a year tuition, which is the amount that you need to actually pay the expenses, whether or not it's a tuition-free school. If you can remember that CUNY, at one time was tuition-free, does that mean that the teachers taught for nothing? Oh, they were paid. Okay. So you can have a tuition-free school, but even then the teachers get paid. So somebody has to pay the money. At the outset, we've decided that it's easier to have the students pay the $2,000 a year. $2,000 a year is only is $40 a week. Students do at the outset, and this is how the money will be paid after we switch to a really tuition-free college.
Okay.
We still have to pay the expenses.
Okay.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
For the mayor and I and a radio talk show host met about 3 weeks ago, and I wanted to go in there and sell my concept for a town attorney general to enforce the rights of the people of the town at government expense. But I thought that unless I offered something else, that just offering a town attorney general isn't enough. So I put together a package of 3 other things, plus the Attorney General. The first thing I offered as part of this package is a tuition-free college. A tuition-free college means, from the standpoint of the student, he or she would not have to pay tuition or pay for books. From the standpoint of the college itself, it's not really a licensed college. It's not an accredited college. It's just an equivalency college where we give the bare bones but comparable education, and with paid instructors. And how do we raise the money? Either we have the students at the outset. This is what the mayor and I discussed, and he said that let's charge $2,000 a year at the outset, and then the minute the school is functioning, we can then switch to a really tuition-free college. And I explained to him how we can raise the money, and this is exciting, that you don't really need the students to pay $2,000 a year. It's not that much, but I would rather have it be tuition-free. Oh. I imagine having a free education at the college level for everyone in the town. No matter what age, no matter what status of life, we can give a free education, but it won't have food service. It won't have campus grass. It won't have a campus. It won't have a dormitory. It won't have a library. We don't need any of that stuff.
Because of the internet, you get the books you need.
Well,
through the internet?
it'll be a book-driven college.
Right.
But the books will be provided. They can go to the public library and do their own research. We're not going to have all those extras. What are the extras I'm talking about? And this is where it gets a little bit, whose ox are we goring? But we would not have tenure, so that professors would not be tenured. Do you know what the Harvard professor gets, a Harvard law professor gets per hour for teaching?
I know because I did a class, but let's a show with you.
$2,000 an hour to teach.
That's a nice rate.
Yeah, they teach 100 hours a year and they get $200,000. So that's $2,000 an hour, plus free office, free secretary, free Xeroxing, free telephone, free labor from the students, and a lot of contracts with other people because they're a college professor. They get outside contracts, so that they're living very high in the hog. In my college, my equivalency college, we're going to pay what it takes to get somebody to teach. They're not going to be accredited professors. There won't be accreditation by a college accrediting organization. There won't be even the right to grant a degree because it won't be state licensed. A state grants the right to give a degree. We won't have that either.
So then you can't say I graduated this college.
No, you got an equivalency certificate from an equivalency college. That's
you
true.
You take tests to show that you've
like
mastered
a GED,
those skills.
high school diploma.
No, you take tests for each course, not just a life experience GED 1-hour test. No, that every course would be taught in the same way that a college course is taught. the end result is that you would have to qualify for the equivalency certificate, and that people in the town, in the area, would know that and be able to hire people that have gotten through that experience. They have the equivalency of a college education by sitting in classes and doing the homework and taking the tests and participating the same way that a college student does, but at much less cost, but no degree. The state will not grant a degree for this, at least at the outset. Maybe the town attorney general can bring an action to require a degree granting status, but that's much further down the road.
Okay, so was that what she was most excited about, the mayor?
Yes, but that's not the best part of the program.
Okay, what's the best part?
The best part of the program is a website that I have. I have developed a way by which the country, if not the world, can get around the idea that employment is now being phased out. We have less and less employment that's being offered. We have a reduction in the benefits that are being offered. We have a reduction in the salaries and other compensation being offered. We have a phasing out.
Coupled with a population explosion.
Yes, we have a phasing down of employment, and for various reasons. One of the reasons is that in the Western world, countries, we like to tack on a lot of social benefits through payroll taxes. So individuals that go into business and wind up hiring people see that there's an extra cost added onto the payroll that's at least 20% more than maybe a lot more with retirement benefits, probably 25, 30, 35% tacked on to the salary.
Guess what?
Yeah.
I have a part-time job at a restaurant. It's a big corporation.
Okay.
When I work 13 hours, they take 50% out of my paycheck. When I work 40 hours, they take 80% of my paycheck. I'm supposed to get, like, officially $200. I can wind up with 50 bucks at the end of the week.
Well,
after a 40-hour week, and the rest is going to the Uncle Sam man.
But you get it back.
What is that? The more I work, the more they take out.
Well, you've hit upon one of the things that many major corporations are doing, including Walmart, and any of the top 10 retailers, I think, are probably doing this. They're trying to set the number of hours per week that their workers work to be under what is called full-time employment. So they have people agree not to work more than 28 hours a week, and that way they're not full-time employees. Therefore, the corporation does not provide for benefits, does not give them that extra thing that they went to work for in the first place. What they want is health care. They want retirement. They want other benefits, but they're not getting them because
vacation pay.
Vacation pay. They're not getting it because they're under 28 hours a week. So they're
getting
like
part-time employees.
Right. That's where I thought that's probably what's happening.
Meanwhile, 28 hours is close to 30 hours, which is almost a full week.
But if you should work
Staying
30
on your
hours,
feet, selling,
you get fired.
And doing this and that.
You get fired for violating the policy of the firm. So.
Whatever, and Halliburton moved its headquarters to Yemen. All these people, and Lehman Brothers head CEO, he gets his golden parachute, and everyone has to take a walk.
So I found a way.
So it's corporate America. It's corrupt capitalism.
I found a way to get around employment. I've created the new machine for employment.
This is exciting.
It's brand new, and this is the best thing that I've offered, and it's really exciting. I have created a website that has a 50-mile zip code radius search so that you can find what you're looking for by designating 4.2 miles from my zip code. I want to find somebody who repairs radiators or who tutors in quantum mechanics high school level or who is willing to be a part-time professor of physics at a college or high school. I mean, what I'm doing is I have the website. It's operational right now. And I want people to put in their tasks. Rather than the fact that they want a job, forget it. Put in the tasks that you would like to perform for people for money. If you want to do the same tasks for free, I don't mind. I'm not there.
This is for your college?
It's for anything.
It's for the town.
It's for the world. It's for whatever you would like to do in life. And if you view it like this, if you sit at the computer and you figure out what are the keywords I can use in order to invite people to find me.
All right, well, wait a second. Look, I'm a writer-director. I want to stage a play.
I had turned this off, and
There's
I don't
a lot
know why
of
it came back
actors who
on.
want to act in a play. Where's the venue to do the play? Or I'm a mechanic. I like to fix cars, and this guy's a broken car. Where's the garage where we can do this?
Okay, here's the way it works. A person that has a garage that's looking for people to play in it would put an ad on the same website saying, I have an empty garage at such and such a zip code. I'm looking for players that are willing to perform a repertory group, and please call me at such and such an address. So no matter what you want or what you have to offer, the website deals with it as a task or as a task wanted.
No,
you can either offer a task.
Let's repeat.
Okay.
I'm a writer-director on one stage of play.
Right.
There's 1,000 actors at that one act in a play.
Right.
Fine. Everyone says, great, now let's get together.
Okay.
Where do we get together? Where's the theater?
You would put in an ad saying wanted in a vacant garage that could be used by a theater group to produce income for the owner of the garage. You can find whatever you're looking for if you word it correctly. There's no secret that it only takes words to try to express what you're looking for. This is a website that allows you to express anything that you want, and you put it in. The thing that I have is that the words you put in are keywords, and therefore you could put in 1,000 ads for different things that you would like to offer, different tasks or different things that you want, ideas that you're looking for, anything in the world that you want, you can express in words.
Well, yeah, it's happening very well with Craigslist and Free
Craigslist
Cycle.
is not happening very well. Craigslist says that your ad comes out every 10 days. So if you ever thought about the effort that you put in creating 1,000 ads, and then you would have to put those ads in every 10 days, you're not going to do it. So Craigslist is not adequate. Craigslist has a limitation that you can't put in an ad in every region. You have to select your region and stick with that. I don't. Craigslist requires that you pay money in many cases. I don't. So my ads are free. They last forever. There's a zip code radius search, and it is oriented towards the offering of tasks.
I already know a task I want to do,
So you're
Frank.
building community
Frank,
through the internet.
Listen, I got a task in mind. I really want to videotape older people's stories for their children and their grandchildren. I'd like to do it in the city of New York. So I'm going to word something. I'm going to put it on your task list and see if I can do that.
Okay, here's what I did with the mayor. I told the mayor that I told him that I want to have 40% of the eligible people in your town to be put on my website. Now that is a critical mass that I understand from the time of a video player, that the moment the market had 40% penetration, there would be more software and other benefits. It would be a critical mass that would allow an explosion of software for that equipment. So I'm saying that if I can get 40% of the people to list on my website, it's all free. They put in as many tasks as they want. They can duplicate the tasks. There's no payment.
I don't understand what you mean, software and all of that.
Well, in the video.
What video?
Well, years ago, when video recorders came out, video players.
Yeah.
People weren't buying videos until there were enough players around to make it worthwhile for movie studios to generate software or videos so that people with players would buy them. You needed to have a critical mass of 40%.
Oh, in other words, why produce a video if people can't play it? So they need the infrastructure.
You need the infrastructure.
I see, okay.
So my infrastructure for this website, this is the problem that I had. If I have 4,000 people in Hopeless that register, is that any different from having 4,000 people, one in each county of the United States? What's the difference from a marketing standpoint?
Okay.
Let's say there's 2,000 counties. 2 people in each county throughout the United States register in my website.
Okay.
Am I happy about that?
No, you're
not.
No,
why not?
Because you need
because I can't market them. I would have to buy a nationwide advertisement at a cost of $1 million a minute. But if I have 4,000 people within a 1-mile radius, I can then advertise in a 25-mile radius around that town, and I can bring in $50,000 of income per person on the average, I think, by selling their tasks. That town, I calculated, has 1 $250 million worth of unsold time every year that's going down the tubes, just like like a plane that leaves it's empty. Once the plane goes, the seats are empty, you lost that.
He has another brilliant idea, Frank. He's got combined payroll, so each little employer doesn't have to hire a bookkeeper in order to do the payroll tax. Is that part of the plan?
The fourth idea was to have a community payroll, such as an employer of record, an employment agency for part-time people or office temp type. And the cost would be spread to the people, to the businesses that used it, so that each business then they would check in with this employer of record and place their own employees on there. And there would only be one insurance policy, one workman's comp policy, one unemployment insurance policy, one audit, one set of files, and all of this would be done and eliminate so much added cost that the 800 businesses in the area would only have one little room servicing their payroll, instead of having all of those 800 different operations that have frustrated people like myself in even hiring anyone. We needed to have some way that the staff function of payroll can be picked up by a community
so
organization.
To simplify the bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
So like if Frank wants to produce a play, and he's got maybe you wrote this play, right? You're the playwright, and he wants some actors. He advertises for actors, and then when he comes to paying them, he goes through the collective payroll.
Right. He goes in and checks in with them and gives them the appropriate access to your bank account. They have to write checks against your bank account.
Can we just divvy up the box at the end of the night?
Well, if you do, you have problems of underground economy. And what I'm trying to do is to cause money legitimately to come into the town. Do you think a person can earn $100 a day doing odd jobs?
Sure, they do it all the time.
They do it all the time. So I'm saying that between $100 and $200 a day, my website can bring in. $100 a day is $25,000 a year. $200 a day is $50,000 a year. It's not outrageous to say that I think I can bring in $50,000 of extra income per participant. So if you have that kind of money coming in, where are their mortgages going to be? In default, or are they going to be paid?
I see what you're saying, and by making an overground economy, what you're doing is you're building up the integrity of the government of the local area, where people are legally protecting each other.
Well,
so have you gotten in touch with Mr. Biden, Mr. Obama?
Well, they should be doing this, not me. This is what I object to.
We have a whole new regime change on our hands.
This is what I object to. Why do I have to go out and do this at my own expense? I'm not getting paid for this. I spend my time going to Indiana. At my expense, I get no reimbursement for this. This is a government function that I'm doing because I know that it can work, and I'm the only
democracy.
one.
That's demos kratos, people power. You're a patriot.
I think it's outrageous that we don't have a means by which the public can demand of their own local or other representatives to do this for them.
But Carl, they don't demand because we have poorly educated people. Even after $250,000 worth of education, my experience has been highly educated people can often be highly trained and highly conditioned people. They don't see some of the opportunities that somebody who isn't, sometimes education is prejudice.
Yeah, what was that?
You don't see the opportunities, so that the public does.
Guy who said that religion takes away your spirituality and politics takes away your freedom.
Michael Elner.
Justice takes away your freedom, and education takes away your knowledge.
Right.
It's, David Icke wrote that in his book too.
One of the
Very funny Michael Elner's speech that way.
One of the optional courses at this equivalency college is to teach people how to set up manufacturing in the area. Because we need to have a resurgence of manufacturing. We can teach people our skills.
We need to get back to the land.
We need everything.
Create new food co-ops.
We need everything. But imagine the reason that we're not having an economy as good as it is that the people that I want to help me I can't find. I have need right now for somebody to do something, but I can't find that person. I have to do it myself. You have need. We all have need. But in a universal database where all of those people with those skills and willingness to work, when they make themselves known, you and I are going to be expanding.
Willingness to work. You know, it's a very idealistic concept.
No, but I saw
most people are lazy, mind controlled,
no,
watching TV, and don't want to do anything.
They're not given this tools, though. These are the tools they need to be productive. We have deprived them of the tools, and maybe as a matter of public policy, we have dumbed them down, and we don't give them the tools. I'm trying to change that.
Right, because I saw Frank come alive when you mentioned, you know, once you got the idea, I could do a play. That excites him. I mean, he's got a job now that's, you know, must be fun making money. What if you were doing your passion? And what if the only
I've
thing...
staged 12 plays, and it takes a lot of money and passion and work.
I know, but what I'm saying is he's got this idea of an infrastructure using technology so that you connect with those actors who don't want to write the play, but they enjoy acting. You know, I've got 6,000 hits for my apple pie recipe on YouTube. You know, people like to see, you know, give them some skills. I've learned a lot of little things, you know, to pass on, and I think home economy and social economy is the same thing. Personal health and social health, you know, it runs by similar principles. So what I've always liked about Carl is he never graduated from high school, and he got through Harvard Law School.
Oh, really?
So that means you have an innovative mind. You know, you set off for experiences in certain ways.
Isn't that like Einstein too? Got kicked out of high school or something?
No, not really. I work hard, and I've got a lot of doctrines that I think about. I look at problems and I try to imagine what caused the problem, because my feeling is that if you can understand what causes a problem, the solution is self-evident.
Okay,
so I think of problems and I try to see if I can understand them.
What do you think caused the problem during 9/11? What got you interested in the 9/11 truth?
Well,
why did I see you down at St. Mark's Church? How did that happen?
I came in because my wife thought that the buildings were built improperly and should have been able to withstand the airplane hits if that's what occurred. And she went to various meetings and raised her voice and was angry with the way the buildings were constructed. And it didn't take too long to figure out that that wasn't it at all. It wasn't the way the buildings were constructed. It appeared.
God bless Anne. She went right down there, and yeah, I love her. She's a fighter.
So she was fighting for the wrong thing, but it came clear after a while that that how could these buildings go down without someone's assistance?
I really admire the love you have for your wife, because he also filed a lawsuit, an amicus brief on behalf of Howard Stern, not because he listened to Howard Stern, but because his wife did, and he was with his wife, so he was listening too, and it's a very interesting lawsuit. I learned, I had a lot more respect for Howard Stern after I heard that. But anyway, so Anna's down there, and she's pestering that the buildings were built improperly, because buildings should be able to withstand airplanes if that's what happened.
And then she realized, it dawned on us that that wasn't it at all, and we came into the 9/11 movement because we realized that it wasn't
9/11 Truth
Movement.
Movement.
Truth Movement, yes.
9/11truth.org.
9/11 Truth Movement, yes.
Go on.
Yeah. Well, and then we went to the church and we met everyone here and elsewhere. We met a lot of people. And the idea on the phone for a commission, I was on a national telephone conference with about 20 or 30 people in the 9/11 Truth Movement nationally. And a person in the state of Washington mentioned that there was a petition process in New York that we should think about. And I said, I didn't know about it. What is it? He said, you can pass statutes by vote of the people. I said, I didn't know that. Tell me more. So I looked up the law and I found a New York City ballot initiative statute, and I then said, great, let's have a ballot initiative to have a commission to investigate 9/11 and to grant it the subpoena power, because it would be like any government agency. The SEC and other agencies have subpoena power. You can give them a subpoena power. So then I saw about a month or two later that the real initiative statute in New York is based on a New York State constitutional provision that guarantees the right of home rule, including the right of residents, voters in the area, to change the law that their legislators...
Change the law?
Yeah, you can change the law by vote of the people.
So why don't they have a ballot initiative to decriminalize marijuana?
Well, because
Let's
it's a federal matter. You can't have, there are restrictions that you can't violate. With your initiative, you can't overcome state law to the contrary or federal law to the contrary.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason for it.
But 9/11?
But if you have room to maneuver at the city level, such as congestion pricing, we could either have congestion pricing or we could outlaw congestion pricing. So I want to outlaw congestion pricing so that they don't charge us to come into New York City.
But let's get back
from the
cost
standpoint.
$8 to get on the Holland
You guys,
Tunnel.
time is coming to a close again.
So the ballot initiative for 9/11, New York City has a right to investigate 9/11. So you have a right to pass a statute by vote of the people taking away the right to investigate, possibly, but at least you could create the right to investigate it. It's not inconsistent with New York state law to have New York City investigate a disaster or planned disaster that took place here.
So let's nutshell this whole situation. 2 years ago, you had the wonderful initiative. We tried to get it going. Then Mr. Pepper stepped in and said, "Oh, you shouldn't be Attorney General on this."
There's not enough time.
We went to a new one. Now a new 9/11. We have 30,000 signatures. Why wasn't that presented to the City Council?
What you're doing is presenting a book and asking in 10 seconds if I can answer your book. That isn't fair. It takes 15 or 20 minutes to go over the whole history here. But I created this thing. I wrote the petition. The petition included, when we modified it, it included Pepper. And Pepper agreed with me that he would be willing to have me on there still. That he came into it after I wrote it and after I put myself in as Attorney General. He came in after. He was an afterthought, and he came in and he appointed a group of his own people to the petition and then said, after the petition was there and you got signatures for it, he presented an ultimatum saying that unless the Attorney General comes out of it, he's leaving. So at that moment, he took off with the petition, cut me out of it, and ran on his own. And then it didn't work. It has sort of slowed down, and it's not on the ballot.
Keep the tapes rolling, or throw another one in if it rolls off.
We are now coming back with our initial petition, but devoid of any names, because it appears that when you put names on a petition, they can hold you up. So we're not going to have names on it who can then hold you up and say that unless you do so-and-so, we're going to walk.
Well,
I don't understand.
Why is this 30,000 signatures we gathered with Ed Asner as commissioner and Dr. Pepper and all these other people?
Ask them.
What's the problem?
Ask
Why can't
them.
we dump that on the City Council's desk and say, take the ball and roll with it?
That's not my petition. Ask them. Why didn't they do that? And the answer to it, I think, is this, that the New York City Council knows that it can have a petition, that it can have a commission to investigate 9/11 anytime that it wants. And it has decided by not doing it, not to do it. So you're going to now walk up there and say, hey, guess what, you can do this. And they laugh and say, we know we can do it, and we've decided not to. We just never publicize the fact that we're not going to do it. If you
Well,
want
if the will of the people demands it, if we get 3,000, 30,000, 300,000 signatures saying we want a proper investigation here, why the government has to answer to the will of the people?
But your
supposedly.
But your will of the people. When you say that you have 3 or 5 or 10,000 people, how many people live in New York?
14 million or so.
Okay, now where is your will of the people in the puny amount of votes that you have assembled? It's not enough. It's not a mandate.
Petitions, not votes. Petitions.
Well, only voters can sign.
But
so
you know,
it's
this petition was very involved. With 3 pages of legalese. What time for it? A lot of people said, "Yeah, I agree," but it's like, "Oh, give me a break. I don't want to sign this document 3 times." That was like, "Give me a headache." Make it simple. If it can be very simple, it probably would have 10,000 more signatures.
In order to tell the people in a petition what you plan to do, you have to tell them. If you want to say that this is a petition and we're not going to tell you what it's about, it's a simple one, please sign it. I'm sure you'll get the signatures. But what are you going to have when you don't say anything? So you're saying give them a blank slate and don't say anything, let them sign it. They will sign it. They will sign a blank slate. You know that, and I know it. They don't read it.
But couldn't we just summarize it in 3 simple sentences?
You need to spell it out.
We don't believe the official story. We want a new investigation.
But
Period.
that all you're doing is, yeah, that's a different kind of petition. You're going up to legislators and saying that we have a problem, that we don't believe the story, and we want you to investigate, and they do nothing. That's a different type of petition. You have a right to do that. Freedom of speech. You can do it anytime you want. Freedom of the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We have a different type of petition. It's a statute. We're trying to pass a statute, and the statute is longer than just that we want help. It's much longer than that, and it happens to take 3 or 4 pages to spell out. Your people, the ones that you've helped it at my side, and then you helped the new side, the Pepper Group, and neither one has accomplished it. The first one got stopped by the Pepper Group. Pepper's group is now stopped. Apparently, it isn't going anywhere, and we're back now with phase 3.
Does anyone know the reason why that's? Why
I told you the reason.
They didn't present the material?
No, the reason is that they didn't get the number of signatures in time to be on the ballot.
Well,
so that's the reason. Why they didn't do it, you'll have to ask them. They didn't have the financing. They needed more money. They needed more volunteers. You didn't work hard enough. Les didn't work hard enough.
Yes, he did. Work tirelessly. God bless him.
One person isn't enough.
30,000 signatures was a big pile from
You don't know
floor
that
to
there were
ceiling.
30,000, and a lot
Yes,
of
I do, because I helped collate them and paginate them.
A lot of them were. Some of those signatures were not.
And count them.
Some of those signatures were not valid. But what did you do with the signatures? Did you give them to the Elections Board of Elections?
Exactly. That's what I would hope. I'd say, let's put this on their desk and let them deal with it.
But
good, bad, or indifferent. It's a pile of people that are saying, we want an investigation.
Do you know if that was done? Because I know somebody...
No, it wasn't. That's what's sitting in some house somewhere.
Okay, somebody called me up and asked me, what if we give these petitions over to the Board of Elections, will they ever get them back? I said, I don't think so. Then what do you do? I mean, if you hand over, but you have to. You have to hand over this.
This I understand.
Yeah.
Now, what was your strategy? Why is Office of City Attorney General so important? Because to me, it's an ongoing.
Okay, here, the New York City Attorney General can turn around the budget problem for one thing. How about that?
Right.
Just that alone. The New York City Attorney General can go after the people that owe money to New York City, collect $5 billion a year, and put us back on track. The problem politically is that the people who owe money to New York City are not the ones that the current people in charge want to sue.
And how about, can they sneak into the MTA and look at their books and say, come on, stop hiding all that money. You say you owe money. MTA is making millions of dollars every day, and they pretend to be in the, not.
Okay, we know about all of this corruption, but I want to kind of point out some of the brilliance that Carl had here using 9/11. 9/11 was not really an end in itself. It was just a glaring example of a travesty done against an unprotected people that no one was prosecuting for their right not to be bombed or whatever it was that happened.
Yeah, God bless 343 firemen and 3,000 neighbors.
Zapped. In 11 seconds, a building becomes talcum powder. Nobody even understands the technology that did that. So he was saying...
It's top secret weaponry, so what?
Well, it's top secret weaponry.
The important thing is to get Cheney and these people that did it behind bars.
No, it's inaccessible to us because we don't have the resources to investigate it. And what he was saying is, if you had an office of a city attorney general, you would have the resources of the government to prosecute for the rights of the people.
Well, I disagree
to breathe
with that. William
and
Garrison
not live
didn't have the
under
money
terror.
to look into Kennedy assassination, but he and 10,000 other patriots investigated Kennedy assassination. And all of America has woken up to investigating 9/11.
No, but
and they don't need resources.
No.
It's evidence. It's clear that this was an inside job.
Where's your
crime
subpoena
happened.
power? Where's your subpoena
A crime
power?
happened on 9/11, and these criminals must be brought to task.
But Frank,
they murdered our friends.
Frank, I totally agree with all that. I totally agree.
So it's not about not having resources or money.
I ceaselessly study this. What I'm trying to tell you is we don't want to go from one crime and travesty to another. Kennedy and the moon, it goes on and on. Can't you have a consistent life where you are living under a constitution with a certain amount of order so that you have the security that you can start to grow, to prosper, to share your love, to start to include everyone? That's what it's about to me. That's why the Office of City Attorney General, once I understood it, I go, wow, this is amazing. This could address the Chinese now owning our mortgages. They can call in whenever they want and just own the country. because it's been hemorrhaged away, because we didn't have government institutions that were watching. What happened to the Federal Trade Commission when the Walmarts were coming in? It wasn't just a matter of people not being able to pay their mortgages. Why, in a time of advanced technology and greater power, are people so desperately poor and so anxious and so stressed out? Why were 2,000 jobs lost on Election Day? People got pink slips. You know, where are they going to go? I mean, we've got viewers now that are watching this. They want something practical that they can hold. And that's why I was so excited about the Office of City Attorney General using 9/11 as something constructive to make people's lives better, understand this trauma and rise above this trauma. And you'd go about it in a methodical way. That's how I thought of it.
I tacked it on because it would raise the money we needed for 9/11 investigation, and it would raise that money by enforcing the rights of people in the city and make life better. Now, in the small town, I'm telling them that I can raise enough money as a town attorney general to give you enough money to provide for health care for everyone in the town.
And if there's an Office of City Attorney General, then Frank, then you go and you say, what happened to the 30,000 signatures? You don't have any place to go now. You're frustrated, you put a lot of time in, you don't know why these signatures didn't end up where you thought they would. If you had an Office of City Attorney General, then you stay on it. He has to prioritize, right? He has 10,000 problems that the people have. So if only a few people are interested in 9/11, he's not going to study it. But if it's true that there's interest, that there's passion, that there's a concern, then he sees it. It comes to his office, and that's his job. His job is to prosecute for the rights of the people.
And it's not criminal prosecution, it's civil.
It's not
civil.
Yeah,
it's civil.
Yeah, yeah.
It's enforcing the rights of people. It's not a criminal function.
Yeah, you know what I mean, Frank? When you make a crime, that's when you get a lawyer and you're poor. That's when you get the lawyer, because he's defending you because you committed a crime. Where's the lawyer that's helping you when you haven't committed a crime, but a crime's been committed against you? From the corporations, from whoever rained down that terror on 9/11. Who does that? That's how I understand it.
It's to enforce your rights rather than your duties, and it's in opposition to a prosecutor. A prosecutor could be well sued for being too aggressive and taking away your rights. So it's a natural enemy. The prosecutor and a town attorney general are at different ends on the balancing of the interests of government and the people.
It's glaringly absent now. And here's another way of looking at it. I'm realizing now that there are doctors that have cured themselves of cancer or their close ones using very natural remedies or remedies that don't hurt, they're not harmful.
Or cost money or
and
profit
some of
the
them,
pharmaceutical
and
mafia.
some of them cannot in good conscience adhere to the requirements of the American Medical Association and give out the really cruel therapies that have excruciating death usually. They won't do it. And in order to not do it, they have to choose another profession. Who is prosecuting for them? Who's prosecuting on their behalf? And because of that, untold suffering is happening. That's a terrorism that's going on every single day.
Yeah, remember
when people
Rebecca
get their biopsy.
Carley, she helped cure Gulf War vets and denounced vaccines and other alternative healing modalities, and she had to give up her medical license. Here she was a surgeon, a doctor.
But I'm saying I don't want to be out of my mind with anger and frustration and running around from one cause to another. I want to focus on clarifying where I can put my energy so that there's consistency in my life and I can start to build up on the joy that I know exists.
Well, watch the sunrise, go meditate, have your own ashram.
But
peace begins within, you know, clarity and balance is within. We all have a connection to God.
So
whether or not we have lots of possessions or properties, you know, confusion.
But Office of City Attorney General is part of that. It's part of the regime, part of the program. It's like getting up early. It's like he's saying you have a prosecutor. Where's the natural enemy of the prosecutor? If he's always saying, what have you done wrong? Who's saying, you know, let's make sure that you can prosper and do right, that you're protected to prosper and do right. Who's doing that?
But here's the essential thing that I determined, that at the top you can't do change. No matter what we hear, you can't effect the change. Do you think that Obama is going to bring $50,000 of added income into people
No, I don't.
No way. But
and you
I
don't
can.
think that either, do you,
I
Frank?
can. I can
Well,
bring
if
$50,000.
Obama was like Cynthia McKinney,
Yeah.
who I
Well,
voted for,
right.
and really wanted a radical change can happen because we have radical problems.
But
and there could be a president with great visionary,
but imagine
who's a
this now.
spiritual-oriented person.
But imagine this. I can take a small town, just a very small town, 10, 15, 20,000 people, and I can bring prosperity into the town. I'm doing it to test it, to make a model. And if that works, you're going to have an expansion.
Okay, what's the website? Where do we go?
Well, it's myclads.com. But
Repeat?
that, well, myclads.com. It means myclassifiedadvertisements.com. Myclads.com.
myclads.com.
But the better website, the one that covers everything, all four, is called electionissuesus.com.
electionissuesus.com.
With 2 dashes, not underscore, but 2 dashes. electionissuesus.com. That's a domain name that I put up recently, and that has my 4 main things, and it even refers to Hopeless, Indiana. I made a change.
Okay, so we can
So
stay in
again, the
touch with that.
synopsis, what are the 4 main things?
The 4 main things are a website to bring in $25,000 to $50,000 per year per person that wants to work. Number 2, an employer of record so that all small businesses and the households that want to hire domestics can check into one place. Thirdly, a town attorney general. And fourth, the star of the whole thing is the free college.
Tuition-free university.
Well, God bless you, Carl. Hopefully that'll work out, and it sounds like
I'm
a
sure
great
it
So there
will.
you have it. Do we have the chroma key
Yeah.
on the back? This is Paula Gloria, and I'm waiting for the chroma key, and then we'll do a little fade out. Have people left the control room? I wonder
it's
if there's
until 6
anyone even
o'clock.
there. I know we have. Can we have the chroma key on the back? Has that not been in all this time? No more chroma key? Oh, that's too bad. Actually, I can do it in post-production. So put the wide shot on, and I will say goodbye to everybody. Okay? Thank you for joining me. My name is Paula Gloria, and this has been an excursion farther down the rabbit hole with some of my favorite guests, Frank Craven, whose show is What's Ailing Healing America, on every Friday at
9:30 to 10, Channel 34.
Channel 34, and Carl Pearson, who's got these brilliant ideas that the country can lift up by its own bootstraps. Thank you for joining me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.